Welcome to my little presentation to give you a bit of an overview of what the PCC Center for Doctoral Training in Agri-Food-Robotics, AgriFoRwArdS actually is, and what sort of we are offering as part of this. I start off with kind of showing you a bit of the video of what that we put together, where you can also see some of the facilities, the environments that we work on. And no, we won't be surprised that a lot of this is outdoors, right? So we actually are very much at the forefront of also what you want to call field robotics. So we're taking robots out of labs and deploying them in real world environments, which raises a number of really exciting research questions that our students are working on. So moving forward, when I get my mouse into the right window, probably a few words on why this is an interesting challenge. At the moment, the UK, but the whole, not only the UK, but also the whole world is really struggling with the massive population growth that we've got, climate change, and we've got also particular socioeconomic pressures here within the UK, particularly where we have got fewer and fewer people actually being interested in working in agricultural settings. So there's a real hope that through automation and robotics, we can actually tackle some of those challenges, that we can actually put food on the table for the growing population without having the impact on the climate that we currently have. Because of course, agriculture as a whole is one of the major contributors to climate change and has massive impacts also on the quality of our soils, our water through runoff, and etc. So really interesting problems that we need to tackle through a combination of AI, new types of sensing, robotics that can work autonomously in the field, smaller vehicles that are going out in the farming environments, and also going through the entire kind of value chain of getting food off the field, or getting crops off the field and turning them into food. We also we really kind of try to address the entire spectrum from farm. We often say this, from farm to fork. We're probably not going quite to fork to serve it to you at your table, but the challenges that we trying to address here really kind of address the entire spectrum. We have also got just organized a new competition as the CDT, being one of the main organizers of that, in one of the world-leading robotics conferences named ICRA, where we actually develop robots that are preparing and cooking an English breakfast. So you really see, like, we've got these robots out in the field, and it goes all the way to preparing food in most efficient and in economically friendly, ecology friendly ways. So I hope you get a bit of an idea why we want to do this. It straddles a lot of different challenges inside this overall aim that we're having. Just naming a few of those. So phenotyping is the science basically of developing new crops and identifying what traits they've got. We wanted to take this out from the laboratory into the field. And so we've got our own little phenotyping platform, or when I say little, it's actually quite big, with really state-of-the-art sensing on these platforms. A lot of the work we do is around crop management, so all the way from preparation, seeding, over the crop care, the monitoring, to the picking, the harvesting in the end. So that entire chain goes through that. And then following on from that come challenges in logistics, in food preparation, in packaging, in quality assurance, etc. We've also got the area of livestock in our centers, so we actually taking care of the welfare and the well-being of livestock, for instance. So there's one student who works particularly in poultry farming and makes sure that the environments are hygienic for delivering best quality in the final products, for instance. We've also worked through our partners in East Anglia with the fisheries, so with CFAS, so that is about classification of fish and monitoring also how fish are moving, for instance, ensuring that we are not overfishing our limited resources. So you see it's quite a wide scope, but what sets us apart, I think, as a CDT a little bit is that we really are interested in these application domains that can make a difference. And we get our research challenges from looking into those and having something that is actually really in co-delivery, in co-development with a lot of our industry partners. Right, so overall, if you're not familiar with the concept of a Center for Doctoral Training, in the UK, this is one of the prime ways of actually doing your PhD. This is, gives you a bit of an idea where the geographical spread of all the different centers for doctoral training is in the UK. There's at the moment 4 robotics ones. So there is ours, right? And then there is, of course, the Center for Doctoral Training in RAS. Then we've got one that's called FASTScope, and we've got one that's called AIMS, Autonomous Intelligent Machines and Systems. The last one is in Oxford, FASTScope is in RAS and the last one is in Edinburgh. And in that, you see already that these are relatively broad, and we have a bit of a more interesting focus in that sense that we say we are really interested in agri-food robotics, right? So a bit of stronger application focus, which I think is quite motivating for people to really deal with real world challenges and make a difference also in the real world. The CDT itself is a joint venture of these core locations. So we all kind of spread in the east of the country, more or less. University of Lincoln is the lead of this. Then we've got the University of Cambridge, which Fumia and Fulvio are here. We've got the University of East Anglia as partner, and then two more application-focused entities. One is the National Center for Food Manufacturing, sitting nicely in between all these three academic institutions, and the Manufacturing Technology Center in Coventry. So always nice to have a few faces on there, and this is probably always the slide I'm most proud of, because in the end, as a Center for Doctoral Training, what we really produce are excellent students. And this gives you a bit of an overview of the diversity of the people that we currently have and that have joined us so far. From cohort 1, where we started with relatively small cohort of students, all the way now to have cohort 4 active and already, on the screen here. So there's the students on one side who we lead to their PhD, to publications, to actually set them on a career path. And then there is the other slide of, the people that are on the other end, let's say, including me and our other AgriFoRwArdS leads, the lead teams from the different universities and the different other institutions involved in here. So it's always good to just have a bit of a view whom you're talking with. And you see at least 2 of those also here in the room at the moment. 3, actually. Greg is also here. Hi, Greg. As I mentioned, the other interesting part of this CET is that we really are inspired by the research challenges that our collaboration partners, our industry partners, are bringing to us. They approach us and tell us, well, this is something that is really interesting. We have the expertise and we know what could be an interesting research challenge. We're not doing R&D for industry. CDT is about advancing the state of the art, doing novel things, doing new research, but the strong embedding with our industry partners allows us to identify new research opportunities that you would otherwise probably not have. Moving forward quickly here, we've kind of identified the main research themes, talking about the fundamental research that we do in the CDT. We have the focus here on mobile autonomy. That's basically robots going out and about in the farming environment. They may be flying, they may be driving, they may even be walking. We have got a focus on the manipulation, because we need to handle crops, we need to handle food with novel approaches, new ideas around how we can best do this without causing damage, with ensuring hygienic operations, etc. Big challenges also from the research area of sensing and perceptions. So that comes, for instance, from monitoring crops, identifying any diseases that they may develop, all the way to monitoring and forecasting what sort of yields we might be getting. So really straddling into the computer vision and AI, which is a lot of the people of the students in our CT are currently engaging in. Agriculture is also a very interesting domain for fleet management. So that means we're not talking about a single robot. We may be talking of about fleets of robots of tens and even up to 100, to really reap in the benefits of having multiple robots operating in large-scale environments. So scalability is one of the key aspects that we're tackling in those challenges in research when we talk about fleet management, because agriculture is inherently a large deployment environment. And last not least, we have you could almost say we are on a sort of path towards automation. So at least in the foreseeable future, we will have a lot of collaboration of machines with robots together. And that's why we have a dedicated focus also on human-robot collaboration. So All these areas are actually tackled by some of our students. So if you're joining, and you won't be the only one who's focusing on manipulation, you won't be the only one who's doing fleet management. So these are relatively broad topics, but the nice thing about the CDT is that it is a cohort and people meet right regularly to actually collaborate and work together. Coming a bit deeper into the actual training model. So how do we do this? We have what is called a 1+3 model. So it's an embedded MSc phase, then followed on with a PhD phase. Because we really want people to feel as part of a big cohort and be actually together as a team, we start off with having a first year where everybody who joins the CDT is doing an MSc in robotics and autonomous systems here at the University of Lincoln. So you see that's usually a cohort of around 10 per year. So you will be part of that. You're not the only ones who are doing this MSc RAS. There's other students who are not CDT members, but are still joining this MSc phase. That is with teaching contributions, of course, from people at Lincoln, but also from other partner institutions that contribute to this MSc delivery. And then from the year 2 to 4, you're actually doing your PhD either at Lincoln, Cambridge, or East Anglia. We have associate training throughout, so we'll come together very regularly. We've got summer schools, we've got regular kind of progress meetings, collaboration meetings for people that work in the same field, and a number of other associated training events, like going to do some field visits, to do some site visits, to have being trained up in according to your different career path that you may be interested in. So we've just been running an entrepreneur training series, for instance, for those who are interested in starting their own business, where we get really excellent tuition from leaders and that are recruited by the different partner universities. Good. So that's the sort of just to dig a bit deeper into the immediate, like when you start and you join for the MSc phase. We have this 1 year of MSc training in Lincoln. I'll just give you a bit of an overview where we're really trying to lay a joint foundation so everybody after this understands the basic principles of robotics. If you haven't done robotics today, but you've got some background in a technical subject, you're absolutely ready for this CDT. And where you're not and maybe completely ready yet, we're going to use this MSc phase to equip you with the basic understanding of robotics and how you can actually program robots, how you can make them work, how you can make them understand the world, how you can enable perception, AI, and machine learning methods, etc. There's a link here if you want to look a bit further for this, but if you just search MSc RAS Lincoln, you will immediately find it. Good. In the PhD phase, as I say, that's where you then go to your respective PhD site. So that's either Cambridge, East Anglia, or Lincoln, where each one of them has really fantastic facilities, robotics labs, all sorts of computing equipment you may need for your deep learning, your machine learning needs, etc. And specific facilities also around agriculture. So we have in Lincoln our own farm. It's a 200-hectare farm with all different types of crops and livestock, where one can very easily try out things in the field. We've got the Productivity East Center at East Anglia, which is a really, really top-notch robotics facility. We've got the Cambridge Engineering Lab, fantastic manufacturing capabilities there as well to develop your own prototypes to play with, and the National Center for Food Manufacturing, if you're going more into the food direction, has actual food manufacturing facilities there as a live lab that people can directly work with without much hassle and without much barrier, but it's operating to actually full on industrial standards. You'll be supervised by your main director of study, as it's called. That's from the actual institution that you are doing your PhD at. We will have a second supervisor from one of the partner institutions to provide you with a different perspective and additional input. And you will also have an industry advisor from one of the industry partners. The pool of industry partners grows continuously, so we are engaging more and more with these industry partners, and they normally are not involved in your day-to-day research activities, but they will meet with you regularly to basically also show their interest in what you're doing and work with you to see what the opportunities are, what the impact could be. And if you're interested, for instance, to create a spin out, and we've got examples of PhD students creating spin outs out of their PhD, for instance, they are an invaluable context to explore such opportunities. That these projects are co-created with our industry partners. Co-creation means we're focusing on the actual fundamental scientific objectives and the challenges that come from that, but they have a contribution to make to contextualize your projects. And of course, we are an EPSRC center, so that is the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, which means we are really interested in computing engineering solutions overall in the robotics domain that we are working in. Good. A few words on associated training I have. There's a lot on this slide, and I've already touched on some of them. I don't want to repeat this all. We have a specific focus on supporting students on 4 different career routes. You don't have to commit immediately. It's like, oh yes, I want to be an engineer at the end of my PhD. So it's just a bit for us to structure the different strands of training we develop. And so we have got aspects here of, you know, from software engineering, very technical, to also training in responsible research and innovation, which is about what should I actually research, what is relevant, and how can I make a positive impact on society, all the way from the foundations of agriculture. So we have a basic course that people take in the very first year, where you actually go out in the field and understand what are the general practices of actually growing crops, all the way to aspects of intellectual property and probably creating spin-outs. So quite a wide range, and you can pick and choose from a lot of these training opportunities that we offer. We also do a lot of site visits where we go out on farms and manufacturing environments to really understand the context in which we're working. We've got research progress meeting regularly and things like a seminar series. And I mentioned on the right-hand side here, the main conference that we have annually, and a summer school where we really get together and try to work together to, you know, tackle a specific challenge. In this year, as I said, this is related to the competition I mentioned earlier. So we're going to try to make a robot that actually can make us breakfast. Good. Studentship financially includes the tuition fees for 4 years. So the whole MSc fees and the whole PhD fees. So you don't have to pay anything for your tuition or your training within that. All supervision, everything is included. All potential bench fees, etc., are included. You also get a tax-free stipend at EPSRC rates, which at the moment sit around nearly 18,000 a year. They are tax-free, so they have just been lifted in response to the increase in inflation. So at the 2023 rate, it's just shy of 18,000 a year that every student gets tax-free, and also covers basically, you know, we are in the UK, so health provision, NHS, etc., is of course covered and doesn't have to be paid extra for this. So, and you have access to a generous research and training support grant, which allows you to buy equipment yourself in collaboration with your supervisor, to attend conferences, to go out and book onto additional training. Excellent. Quickly, if this sounds somewhat interesting and exciting for you, here are a few updates on the current application rounds that we have got and the general scheme of how this works. We have the round 2 open at the moment, just for a couple of days left to apply. Don't worry, there's round 3 coming up right afterwards. We just do this in stages because we've got this this process running of going for a first choice, second choice, third choice institution. So as part of the application, you are going to apply for one of the institutions as your first choice. They will assess your application. If you're successful, you're joining them as the PhD student later after your year in Lincoln. Should they decide you're not the best fit for them, then you're actually moving on to the second choice, and they will assess your application, and then you're moving on to the third choice. If they then they will assess your application. So we've got this staged process, and you are in charge of saying, this is the best fit, this is the best institution for me to do a PhD in. And then you basically rank your choices, and we will work through them, hoping really that we can find you the best place where there's a mutual match between your interests and skills and us. All these applications are made through our AgriFoRwArdS website. Good. Entry requirements is applicants should have some experience in some sort of technical subject, mathematical background. Some experience in programming and computer science is definitely beneficial because you are first joining an MSc in robotics and autonomous systems. So that one will have some expectations that you understand the basics of how computing works, let's say. We've had candidates in the past who had only very little programming experience, and they used actually the time before the phase really started to kind of beef up their knowledge about that. So be open about what you've got in your application. And we've had people that are joining from, show very great skills in technical subjects in general, but haven't had a programming background. It doesn't stop you applying. We've had this very successful students coming from a range of undergraduate degrees to join us. We've also got a very diverse pool of students at the moment when it comes to age. So we have everything, I don't know exactly, we know from let's say early 20s to the mid 50s were students that have joined us at this stage. And if you can show us the skills and the interest to make a difference in agri-food robotics, then probably you should apply. A few of the FAQs we've got in there. If you haven't completed your degree yet, of course, that is probably the standard for a lot of people that come straight out of their undergraduate or MSc programs. Yes, you can happily apply with predicted grades. We have got a limited number of international places. I'm going to be open about that. This is a requirement by our funder. So from experience, the numbers of international students that apply is often much higher than the ones that are actually resident and of UK citizenship. But we have got a number of limited places, and should we no longer have these available, we will clearly make that known on the website and the application website. If you don't have experience in agri-robotics, are you welcome? Of course, right? This is exactly, we have got people who have a strong agriculture background and had very little experience yet with robots. They are very welcome because we really want a diverse set of skills and knowledge in our CDT, because as I said, it's a cohort, you benefit from one another. So you should have an interest in it. You should have an interest in robotics. You should have an interest in agriculture potentially, but there is no requirement for you to show us that you have programmed the robot that can go out in the field, right? It's very open for that perspective. Should you be one of those who already just have done an MSc Robotics and Autonomous Systems at Lincoln, then yes, you can still apply. It's a sort of somewhat specific case. We will not make you redo the very same degree. So also if you're returning to study, of course, and if you were, if you, for instance, have had like lots of experience in industry and now you think, oh, right, doing a PhD is the right thing for me, absolutely, we welcome you. And we've got a number of students, as I said before, that actually have gone down this route. At shortlisting, we don't look at any identifying information. So we won't know your name. We won't know exactly which university you get your degree from. Everything is redacted for a really, really fair application process at the shortlisting stage. If you are then invited for interview, of course, we will get to see you. But we have all been trained very well to ensure that we are conducting our admissions process in the most fair and inclusive way. Excellent. Really important for us is the fantastic team. And you don't see them, they don't have the camera on, all of them. But our CDT manager is Kate Smith, who's also joined us here. She's leading the team that really looks after you. There's April. So this is the Lincoln team, but there's also respective people from at East Anglia and at Cambridge that are there for you, and they will do everything and will go all out to ensure that you have got the best experience. So it's not only the academics that are your partners, it is also the CDT team that really looks after you. And yeah, they have been receiving an award for that, although exceptional service there.